So in 2 seconds, I'm going to invite Raghu Kodige up here along with Tom Cushing. Raghu is founder and chief product officer of TV data agency Alphonso, and Tom is general counsel and chief privacy officer for Alphonso too. So thank you for being here, guys. Roll on up.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Wow, that was a great panel. It's a tough act to follow here after that. What I wanted to do in closing was sort of just capture sort of some of the themes that we are hearing in this conference and talk about how to bridge sort of industry needs with consumer values, right? So, one of the consistent themes that you're hearing, on this panel and throughout the conference is sort of this need for cross-media measurement and optimization. And, as more and more brands are spending on linear, on OTT, on digital, they're demanding how do we measure across all these platforms. And more, we are seeing newer sort of companies jumping into the fray, right? If you look at what's happened just in the last few months, Disney and Viacom, and yesterday we heard from Apple, they're all jumping into the fray of offering both, OTT and linear services to consumers. So it's become a mandate for all of us to figure out how to measure across all of these medium. And if you think of who is really doing this well, I think it's the direct-to-consumer brands, right? So, at Alphonso, we work with a number of them, and what we see from the direct-to-consumer brands is that, they all started off, purely as digital spenders, but they've, discovered that TV is really where they can sort of drive more brand value and, outcomes. So, I think we referenced to that in the panel just now, that last year alone, the spend from some of the top DTC brands was about, $5 billion. And they've been spending, more, or they've been doubling their spend year over year. And what's unique about what they're doing is they look at everything the same way they look at measurement in digital, right? Count every impressions, follow the, the user and see, what outcomes happen. Are they visiting my store? Are they, going to our website? And when they do that, they're able to sort of get clarity on how their TV spend is working and what effect it has on all of their rest of the spend as well. So I think that's an important sort of preview of what's to come for everybody who is working across these mediums in our industry. And the way to solve this, in my mind, again, we've heard this consistently throughout the conference, is technology and data, right? So at Alphonso, in my company, we use computer vision, automatic content recognition, deep learning, all of this together we call that video AI, deployed on smart TVs to collect data on everything that's happening on the TV. What shows are people watching, what ads they're getting exposed to, is it linear versus OTT, right? So when you collect so much data, you have a way to address the industry needs. But I think it's also important for all of us to focus on consumer benefits, because it's really the collaboration of those two that keeps this engine going, right? Now, as a consumer, the first thing that everyone asks is, hey, what are the user benefits? And how is my privacy protected? So there needs to be a really good discussion and thought about fair exchange of value to the consumer, right? So, and one way of thinking about this is, how do we benefit the consumer? We are in the golden age of entertainment, which means there is more content for everybody to see, but as a consumer myself, I know it's a struggle every time I switch on TV to really know what to watch on TV, right? So that's one area that we can use all of the TV data and other forms of data that we are getting from consumers to give it back, right? Help them sort of find the content on which platform at what time that they should watch. And we worked on some of these with some of our smart TV OEMs where there is Netflix-like recommendation built right into the TV that learns what you're watching and then shows you other things that you could watch right away. Or even something as simple as controlling the quality, the picture quality on your TV, right? Most of us know that our TVs are equipped with ways to change the brightness or the volume for sports versus movie, but very rarely, as consumers, we find the TV remote to do that. But since we know what someone is watching, it can automatically be adjusted. So there are a lot of ways, if as an industry we think about how to benefit the consumers, we can come up with ways to benefit the consumers and thereby it becomes fair exchange of value that we are deriving from this. So to sort of close this, what I want to talk about is, as an industry, we should really be thinking about sort of what are our guiding principles anytime we are expecting consumers to give us data that is valuable to the industry. And in my opinion, it needs to be about control, transparency, and value. I mean, I already touched upon values. I want to turn around to Tom to talk about control and transparency.
Hi, thanks everybody. Thanks, Raghu. And thanks for listening. I know very few of you decided to come here this weekend so that you could hear springtime Santa Claus talk about Alphonso, but hopefully we can give you a little information, not only about how we kind of see privacy world, but also to address some of the other things that have come up during the course of this panel. I've heard dangerous data, I've heard scary data, and I want you all to know that there are a lot of things that we're doing out there in order to kind of address those problems so that that you can feel good about us sharing our data with you. Raghu's talked about kind of the control and transparency issues. I think in conjunction with what we're doing here and what the next couple panels are going to be great. Stuingus is going to talk with Commissioner Phillips, and then there's an ensuing panel about all of the different places that, all the different regulations that are going to be coming up and all the different places that are affecting privacy right now. It's going to be crucial that you not only have good privacy practices, but that you're adaptable. I got pretty lucky. I showed up at Alphonso about 9 months ago, and they had already built into the process privacy. So as a practical matter, all of the nifty things that Raghu talks about, all these ideas about how we want to measure things, when the engineers sit down to figure out how that's going to be done, I get to be part of that process at the very front end as the Chief Privacy Officer. I get to be part of the discussion. They don't just bring me the product and say, okay, Tom, can you, bolt some privacy stuff onto that? But I get to kind of work from the very beginning to steer that conversation as much as I possibly can, which is really handy because it helps with our adaptability. It helps with our ability to make sure that even though we have a pretty good idea of what's going on in privacy today, that may not be what's going on tomorrow. And I think the next couple panels are going to be really strong on that very point. So control, transparency, value. We want to make sure that we're giving the users something for the data that we're taking. We make sure that that's built into the process. We want to make sure that we're not the default process. If someone goes through and just clicks the OK button on the TV during the configuration process, that they don't end up with our service, that they actually have to move a cursor somewhere in order to make sure that they really wanted to make this exchange between giving us their data. And we've had some great experiences with our data partners. I had a wonderful experience with an OEM earlier this year where we work with them not only to say, here are the disclosures that we need, but it's also the adaptability. If tomorrow there is a new privacy rule that something that wasn't PII yesterday is now going to be PII, what do we do? What's the process that we are already going to have in place so that our engineers can talk to your engineers, get that updated, and get it out to the users, get the new disclosures out to the users? And our OEM partners are great. They want to work with us. In fact, we had a really nice conversation recently where they came to us with their privacy policy and said, hey, you guys, can you review our privacy policy and make sure that we're saying enough about the fact that we use third parties to help gather data? And I took that as a pretty nice victory that we're not only data partners, but we're also privacy partners. And we hope that that kind of thing expands not only with our data partners, but also with our clients. So we're always happy to brag about our privacy policies, so we hope we can have those conversations with you at some point down the road. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Raghu and Tom, thank you so much. I'll just run you that. Thank you, gents. Awesome.